looking? What you got cooking? How's out cooking something up with me? Hey, sweet baby, don't you think maybe we could find us a brand new recipe? I got a hot rod for you $2 and I know a spot right over here. The soda pop and the dancing is free, so if you wanna have fun, come along with me. Hey, sweet baby, don't you think maybe how's about cooking something up with me? Hey, you're good looking. What you got cooking? How's out cooking something up with me?
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to JADD's 25th annual prom fashion show, Unfinished Business. Tonight, I'll be your hostess, Hallie Harold, and this is your host, Aiden Harris. We will be your guides tonight as we take a trek through history to remember some giants who were taken from us too soon.
For those who have never been to the show before, let me talk about the fashion show. Our show is dedicated to Tara Rice and her family. Tara should have graduated in 1999, but a drunk driver killed Tara and her mother at the end of her junior year. The Rice family has lost a total of 6 members in 3 alcohol-related crashes. This motivated them to improve their community by promoting alcohol awareness.
They especially wanted to do something for Tara's graduating class, which happened to be the year of our first show, 26 years ago. We were honored to have Tara's aunt speak at that show many years ago. We are honored to have the Rice family members here with us tonight. Please join us in supporting their efforts to prevent alcohol tragedies and help us welcome them to the show. The Rice family, please rise, please.
Thank you for allowing us to share your story. It's stories like these that inspire the JADD lifestyle and make the right choices in life.
Well, Aiden, speaking of great stories, I think it's about time we started out our journey, remembering those who were taken from us too soon.
Maybe we can learn some lessons from lives of some of the mistakes that were made along the way, starting with some fatal crashes. James Dean, a high-speed crash.
And a famous trio of musicians who died in a plane crash, known as the day the music died.
Say goodbye, yes, that'll be the day. You make me cry, you say you're gonna leave. You know it's like loving you, honey, too well. I know you love me, baby. Still you tell me maybe that someday, well, I'll be, well, that'll be the day when you say goodbye, yes, that'll be the day when you make me cry, you say you're gonna leave, but you know it's a lie, 'cause that'll be the day when I die.
Hello, baby. Yeah, this is the Big Baba speaking. Oh, you sweet thing. Do I want? Will I what? Oh, baby, you know what I like. Chantilly lace and a pretty face and a ponytail hanging down. Wiggle in the walk and giggle in the talk. Make the world go round. There ain't nothing in the world like a big-eyed girl to make me act so funny. Make me spend my money, make me feel real loose like a long-necked goose, like a girl. Oh, baby, that's the one I like. What's that, baby? But, oh, honey. Oh, baby, you know what I like.
Para bailar la bamba, se necesita una poca de gracia, para mí, y arriba y arriba, por ti seré, por ti seré. Yo no soy marinero, soy capitán, soy capitán. Bamba, 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 para bailar la bamba, se necesita una poca de gracia, la arriba.
No, 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 no. Fighting duels, but I prefer a man who lives and gives jewels. A kiss of the hand may be quite continental, but diamonds are a girl's best friend. A kiss may be grand, but it won't pay the rental on your humble flat, or help you at the automat. Men grow cold as girls grow old, and we all lose our charms in the end. But square cut or pear shape, these rocks don't lose their shape. Diamonds are a girl's best friend.
Marilyn Monroe was such a beautiful young talent. Her life ended way too soon due to barbituric overdose.
Though barbiturate overdoses aren't incredibly common, they are deadly, considering 1 in 10 barbiturate overdoses are fatal.
Most overdoses involving barbiturates usually involve other drugs as well, like with Marilyn Monroe, who was taking a dozen several prescription drugs at the time of her death.
Was one of many plane crash deaths that we'll see tonight. We already saw the artist who died the day the music died. Patsy unfortunately joined their number.
Our next artist was an incredibly young talent who died at the age of 26, also in a plane crash similar to the same conditions that led to the death of late Kobe Bryant.
Otis Redding's plane crashed due to the pilot's misjudgment and poor weather conditions.
There was a heavy fog that set in, causing the pilot to lose his position and ultimately crashing the plane.
go away. I had nothing to live for. It's like nothing's gonna come my way. Sitting on the dock of the bay, watching the tide roll away. Sitting on the dock of the bay, wasting time. Ooh, it's like nothing's gonna change. Oh, everything remains the same. I can't do what some people tell me to do. I may as well remain the same. Sitting here resting my bones. This won't leave me alone. 1,000 miles I roam just to make this dock my home. Sitting here in the middle of the bay, watching the tide roll away. Sitting on the dock of the bay, wasting time.
street. Ding, ding, ding went the bell. Zing, zing, zing went my heartstrings. From the moment I saw him, I fell. Chug, chug, chug went the motor. Bump, bump, bump went the brake. Thump, thump, thump went my heartstrings. When he smiled, I could feel the car shake. He tipped his hat and took a seat. He said he hoped he hadn't stepped upon my feet. He asked my name, I held my breath. I couldn't speak because he scared me half to death. Buzz, buzz, buzz went the buzzer. Blah, blah, blah went the wheel. Stomp, stomp, stomp went my heartstrings. As he started to go, then I started to know how it feels when the universe feels.
One trend you might start to see with a lot of these celebrities is that many of them die right around the age of 27.
Those who die at the age of 27 become what is commonly known as the 27 Club.
It is a tragedy that is all too common, and it is a trend that you will see many of the artists in tonight's show have followed.
There's one year in particular that claimed the lives of 3 27-year-olds. In 1970, heroin claimed the lives of Jimi Hendrix
Jim Morrison.
and Janis Joplin.
Some more recent additions are Anton Yelchin, known for playing Chekhov in the recent Star Trek movies.
And Tyler Staggs, who is a professional pitcher for the Diamondbacks and the Angels, who died of asphyxia due to drug abuse.
Feel my temperature rising. Higher, higher, it's burning through to my soul. Girl, you're gonna set me on fire. My brain is flaming, I don't know which way to go. Your kiss lit my fire, like the sweet song of the choir. You light my morning sky, burning love. I feel my temperature. You know I can be found sitting home all alone. If you can't come around, at least please telephone. Don't be cruel to who heart is true. Baby, I made you mad for something I might have said. Please don't forget my past. The future looks bright ahead. Don't be cruel to who heart is true. I don't want no other love, but baby, it's just you I pick it up. Don't stop thinking of me. Don't make me feel this way. Come on over here and love me. You know what I want to say. Don't be cruel. Walked through a party in the county jail. The prison band was there, they began to wait. Band was jumping and the joint began to swing. You should have heard the knocked out jailbird sing that rock. Everybody let it rock. Everybody in the whole cell block was dancing to the jailhouse rock. Spider Murphy played his little saxophone. Little John blowing on the slide trombone. The drummer Walker Melon on the great boom band. The whole rhythm section was a purple gang. Let it rock. Everybody let it rock.
Just like we've seen already in this show, a cocktail of drugs is rarely a good sign. Elvis, like Marilyn, died with barbiturates in his system, accompanied by a dozen other drugs.
It is incredibly important that prescription medication is used as directed by the doctor who prescribed the medication.
Not a single illegal drug was found in Elvis's body, according to the toxicology report. He took the drugs he was given by the doctors.
But he didn't take them the way he was supposed to. Maybe he took too high of a dose.
Or maybe some of the drugs were deadly in combination, and he took them all at the wrong time.
That's why it is incredibly important to only take prescription drugs that are prescribed to you, and to follow the exact instructions given to you, and to always dispose of unused prescription medication properly.
Sing a song, sing out loud, sing out strong. Sing of good things, not bad. Sing of happy, not sad. Sing a song. Make it simple to last your whole life long. Don't worry that it's not good enough for anyone else to hear. Just sing a song. Sing a song, make it simple to last your whole life long. Don't worry that it's not good enough for anyone else to hear. Just sing a song. Just Just sing a
Tonight, we're focusing on a lot of tales of those who weren't able to escape the grip of drugs. There have been many celebrities who made it out of the fight with drug abuse and can now tell the horrors that await those who get caught in addiction. Tim Allen is a great example of a man who was able to turn his life around in 1978. In 1978, Tim Allen was arrested for possession of over 650 grams of cocaine.
650 grams? What's that in freedom unitate in?
For us in the United States, that's 1.14 pounds of cocaine. 1.14 pounds of cocaine. Far from removed Tim Allen we think today. He spent 3 years in federal prison for that charge, and he continued in his drug and alcohol addiction until he got a DUI in the 90s and turned his life completely around.
He has been sober now for over a quarter of a century, and he is a staple in many of our houses, whether it's as Tim the Toolman Taylor, the Santa Claus, Buzz Lightyear, or Mike Baxter. He is such a great example of how someone can escape the addiction and despair they are caught in, while turning to joy and comedy. Imagine the joy that would be lost from this world if he had stayed caught up in the addiction he found himself lost in.
Marvin Gaye's life is a sad case of a man who was trying to intervene and protect his mother when he was killed by his own father.
Marvin's parents were fighting, and he stepped between them and told his father to leave his mother alone, which started a physical altercation between Marvin and his father. The altercation ended when his father shot him twice, once through the heart and once in the shoulder. Trying to defend his mother, his life was brought to an end. The Prince of Motown was suddenly gone from this world in an instant. Much like Tara Rice, he was doing the right thing, but someone else's poor decisions ended his life too soon. We have to always remember that our fate is not in our control. We can always fall victim to the poor choices of those around us, like Tara and Marvin did, which is why the mission of this club is so important. bassist for Metallica, died when he was ejected through the window of a tour bus. When the tour bus suddenly skidded and crashed, he was laying down on a seat and wasn't wearing his seatbelt. He could have survived if he'd been properly wearing his restraints. Another reason our club focuses so much on seatbelt safety. We can take precautions to help protect ourselves and keep some control in situations that are out of our control.
That's right, Hallie. We do have a lot of control over our own lives. For our next act, we have an artist who famously fought in our drug and alcohol addiction, as well as many health issues, mostly stemming from his diagnosis of AIDS, which caused him to step away from his music career late in life. He ultimately died from pneumonia and made worse from his pre-existing conditions.
Each morning I get up, I dive, can barely stand on my feet. Take a look in the mirror. Lord, what are you doing to me? I spent all of my years in believing you, and then just stand on my feet. Lord, somebody, you, somebody, can anybody find me? Somebody to love. Like my bones at the end, I take on my heart and take all out. I get down on my knees and I start to pray, so the tears run down from my eyes. Lord, somebody, ooh, somebody, can anybody find me? Somebody to love.
Easy come, easy go, will you let me go?
Bismillah, no, we will not let you go. Bismillah, we will not let you go. Bismillah, we will not let you go. We will not let you go. We will not let you go.
Mamma mia, mamma mia.
Mamma mia, let me go. Beelzebub has a devil put aside for me, for me, for me.
our 25th annual Prom Fashion Show. I hope y'all have had a fun time so far, as well as learned some lessons from the mistakes from those who have gone before us. As for us, we also still have some unfinished business we need to stand on. As we begin the second half of the show, I am sad that it's coming to an end.
Coming to an end, just like too many of these lovely young ladies' lives, due to poor choices they made earlier in their lives.
As we looked at earlier in the show, though, it's not always their choices that took their lives from them, but sometimes it's the choices of those around them.
Some celebrities were killed by rivals,
Or killed in fatal car accidents by strangers,
or killed by those who loved them most.
or even killed by their own hands.
The next few celebrities we're going to look at died way too young, most never even making it to their 30s.
Y me empieza a palpitar. Sensaciones, ya no razona, no la puedo controlar. Sensaciones, ya no razona, y me empieza a controlar.
Selena was such una hermosa jovencita who was murdered by one of her own fans.
Today is actually the 30th anniversary of her killing. It has been almost exactly 30 years. And I feel like it's become a lot less common to hear about artists dying from drugs these days. It's much more common to hear about artists being killed, like these days, like Selena.
Come to think of it, earlier in the show, there were an awful lot of stars dying in plane and car crashes.
But in the 60s through 80s, it shifted more towards drug-related incidents.
And now, since the 90s, with people like Selena and Tupac, it has become more common for stars to find their end through murder.
Whether it's being killed by a friend like Selena or an enemy like Tupac.
But many stars died by murder earlier too, like Sam Cooke in the 60s. Sam Cooke got his start as a traveling gospel singer with the Soul Stirrers, but then broke out in his solo career, releasing 30 top 40 hits in just over 5 years. He even became close friends with Rev. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. before he too was murdered.
His murder still hasn't been solved to this day. Though murder of our greatest stars has become more common these days, some stars still die in vehicle crashes, like Princess Diana in a car crash, John Denver, who's piloting his own plane and crashed, and Aaliyah, also in a plane crash.
What would you do to get to me? What would you say to have you in? Would you give up or try again? Never hesitate. Say that you weak. Or would you be yourself or play a role to other folks? Or keep it low? If I say no, would you turn your face or play me on? Or would you stay on? First you don't succeed. First you don't succeed. You can dust it off and try again. Dust yourself off and try again. Try again. First you don't succeed. First you don't succeed. You can dust it off and try again. Dust yourself off and try again. Try again and again.
Aaliyah died due to the poor judgment of those piloting the plane. It was out of her hands.
That's right, the plane was overloaded, had improper weight distribution on top of that, and the pilot wasn't properly qualified to fly the plane.
Our next star tragically died in a crash, and she was partially to blame for her own death.
Lisa Left Eye Lopez was not wearing her seatbelt while speeding when she crashed, killing herself, while injuring 4 other passengers.
The whole crash was caught on film because they were shooting the documentary inside of the car at the time.
The footage we see is very telling. In the footage, none of the passengers can be seen with seatbelts.
Lonely mother gazing out of the window, staring at a sun that she just can't touch. If at any time he's in the jam, she'll be by his side, but he doesn't realize he hurts her so much. But all the praying just ain't helping at all, 'cause he can't seem to keep himself out of trouble. So he goes out and he makes his money the best way he knows how. Another body laying cold in the gutter. Listen to me. Don't go chasing waterfalls. Please stick to the rivers and the lakes that you're used to. I know that you're gonna have it your way or nothing at all, but I think you're moving too fast.
Not all stories end in tragedy like so many of the artists we have seen today.
Some artists, like Johnny Cash, find a way out. The Man in Black has credited his wife, June, but mostly God, for helping him out of his severe drug addiction, and often told people, "You can be redeemed." He believed that no matter what you have done, there is always a path to redemption, especially through faith in God.
There is always hope, and you can always be redeemed, though the journey may be difficult.
Remember, there's always a way to escape the blues.
Hello, I'm Johnny Cash. I hear the train coming, it's rolling round the bend, and I ain't seen the sunshine since I don't know when. I'm stuck in Folsom Prison, and time keeps dragging on. But that train keeps rolling on down the sad toll. When I was just a baby, my mama told me, son, always be a good boy, don't ever let me run. But I shot a man in the window just to watch him die. When I hear that whistle blow, I hit my head down. Drinking coffee and smoking big cigars where I knew I had it coming. I know I can't be free, but those people keep moving, and that's what tortures me. Johnny Cash struggled throughout his life with addictions to amphetamines and barbiturates, but he was able to break free.
Heath Ledger was a young man that so many people loved and expected to blossom into one of his generation's greatest actors.
Whether it was his romantic comedy roles in 10 Things I Hate About You and A Knight's Tale, or his dramatic Oscar-winning performance as the Joker, people were drawn to his charisma on screen.
Sadly, his life was cut short due to misuse of prescription drugs. Though there is no evidence that he struggled with addiction, it is well known that he had insomnia and often took sleeping pills. Those prescription sleeping aids, combined with anxiety medication, formed a deadly combination that ultimately took Heath's life.
It's the same cause of death for our next star, the king of pop.
drive by, there ain't nothing you can do. Relax your mind, lay back and groove mind. You gotta feel that beat, and we can rock again. Share that beat alive. I wanna rock with you all night. Dance you into sunlight. I wanna rock with you all night. We gonna rock the night away. Out on the floor, there ain't nobody there. Girl, when you dance, there's a magic that must be love. So take it slow. We got so far to go. We gotta feel that beat, and we can rock again. Share that beat alive. Rock with you all night. Dance you into sunlight. I wanna rock with you all night. We're gonna rock the night away. And when the rules get on, you know they last a while. So we carry on like it's close to midnight. Something evil's lurking in the dark. Under the moonlight, it's his that almost touch heart. You try to scream, but dare take the sound before you make it. And you start to freeze, and so it looks you right between your eyes. You're paralyzed, 'cause this is the night, and no one's gonna save you from me. The one strike, you know we still feel night. You're fighting for your life instead of get up, turn up the night.
Michael was a talent unlike any we'd ever seen. I doubt we will ever have someone like him again.
I can't imagine being in the limelight like that since he was 6 years old. The pressure and attention would drive pretty much anyone insane.
Early in his life, shortly after his career got rolling, Robert Downey Jr. got caught up in drug addiction. He went to jail and rehab for his addiction multiple times.
But through rehab, he was able to redeem himself and found escape and has become one of the generation's greatest actors, and most people thought that his career was over.
Rehab is unfortunately not as effective for everyone. Amy Winehouse is a modern example of a prodigy who tried the rehab route multiple times, but she ultimately wasn't willing to put in the work herself.
Unfortunately, her unwillingness to do the work in rehab is what took her life.
And painfully, one of her most iconic songs, Rehab, is a permanent reminder of how her choices ended up taking her life.
Patrick Swayze, too, spent a lifetime chain smoking, which resulted in developing pancreatic cancer, which ultimately caused his death.
We saw the writing on the wall,
just do.
Hearing your heartbeat inside of me. I keep your photograph beside my bed. In a world of fantasies, I can get you out of my head. I've been waiting for the phone to ring all night. Why you wanna make me feel so good? I got another home, babe. I shouldn't get so hung up on you. I remember the way that you
In 1 year span, from 2013 to 2015, we lost a couple big actors unexpectedly.
Paul Walker famously died in a car crash during the filming of Fast 7.
His close friend was driving about 90 miles per hour in a 45 mile per hour zone. If he had been going the speed limit, Paul could have very well been alive today.
Less than a year later, Robin Williams unexpectedly took his own life.
This is a great reminder that people can be great actors. They may act like the happiest and funniest people, but be full of the greatest sadness inside.
That's why it's so important to look after each other and be there for each other in those rough times that life throws at us.
Our next artist began his career as an iconic duo, but also found tremendous success in his solo career.
He started several trends throughout his career as a musician, and one of his most famous was started because of the shirt he featured in one of Wham's most famous music videos.
George and Andrew decided to feature shirts with a Choose Life message across the front.
People have had tons of theories as to what these shirts are supposed to mean, but the shirt design actually was the brainchild of a fashion designer and political campaigner named Catherine Hamnett, who designed the shirt.
The design was actually intended to be an anti-drug message.
Unfortunately, like most people who watched the video, George missed the intended message and ended up dying due to his drug abuse.
If you are offered drugs, remember to choose life.
Something ain't right. My best friend told me what you did last night. Trying to deceive me. everybody has got a body like you. But I gotta think twice before I give my heart away. And I know all the games you play because I play them too. Oh, but I need some time off from that emotion. Time to pick my heart up off the floor. Oh, that love comes down with devotion. Well, it takes something, baby, but I'm showing you the door. 'Cause I gotta have faith. I gotta have faith. I gotta have faith. I gotta have faith.
As I take your hand and lead you to the dance floor. As the music dies, something in your eyes calls to mind a silver screen in all its sad goodbye. I'm never gonna dance again. Guilty feet have got no rhythm, though it's easy to pretend. I know you're not a fool. Should know better than to cheat a friend and waste the chance that I've been given. So I'm never gonna dance again the way I dance with you.
George Michael died due to his long history of prescription drug abuse.
Even if you're using approved drugs, that doesn't mean you're safe. It is incredibly important to follow the directions given by doctors. And some prescription drugs can be incredibly addicting.
Carrie Fisher, in the same year as George Michael, also passed away due to a heart attack stemming from her long history of prescription drug abuse.
2 years later, in 2018, we had two artists who were on the rise that suffered ill fate in the same year. They were both nearly in the 27 Club.
Mac Miller was considered a generational talent by many, but his life was cut short due to drug abuse, ultimately overdosing on fentanyl right as the drug started to become the notorious killer it is today.
He was one of the first major deaths we heard due to fentanyl. And now fentanyl is the deadliest drug on our streets.
Avicii, one of the most popular EDM artists in the entire world, also died in 2018 after he took his own life at after getting drunk on wine and sustaining self-inflicted injuries from a broken wine bottle, despite being world famous and seeming to have everything the world had to offer.
Avicii had just turned 28, barely making it out of the 27 club.
And Mac Miller was just months away from turning 27 himself, ultimately dying at the age of 26. Come Back to Earth was released 3 months after Mac Miller died from overdosing on fentanyl, a much too common occurrence these days.
In that song, you can hear his loneliness, sadness, and regret. He longed to leave the world and could have been benefited from having a few positive influences around him. The drugs he turned to definitely didn't help him with his problems he was going through. And though they might have provided some temporary fix,
Even if you surround yourself with people who you think are great friends, doesn't guarantee that you'll be happy or that they'll be a good influence. Matthew Perry, who literally had the most legendary friends, famously struggled with drug addiction throughout the run of the show, which would seem like the best years of his life, which Matthew had said he now can't even remember most of his time on Friends because his mind was destroyed by the drugs that he was on.
that's right. We need to make sure we surround ourselves with people that truly love and want the best for us, and who will hold us accountable and keep us out of tempting situations.
You'll never have to worry about that, Aiden. I'll always be here for you.
You're insecure, don't know what for. You're turning heads when you walk through the door. Don't need makeup to cover up. Being the way that you are is enough. Everyone else in the room can see it. Everyone else but you. Baby, you light up my world like nobody else. The way that you flip your hair gets me overwhelmed. But when you
sad story, like so many we have seen tonight, but it is also one that is so different from a lot of the other stories.
Liam didn't have any drugs in his system. He didn't even get murdered. He didn't die in a vehicle crash. He fell from a balcony.
He may not have had his mind altered by drugs, but he wasn't thinking straight because of alcohol.
Because of his intoxication, he mistook the balcony door from the front door and walked off the balcony, falling 3 stories to his death. The alcohol had caused him to not think straight, making a simple mistake he would never make while sober.
That's what JADD and SADD are all about. We're here to help each other think straight when we might get put in difficult situations.
As the show comes to a close tonight, we just wanted to take a minute to thank everyone that helped make this show possible. So much goes into producing this show every year, and we'd like to take a moment to give a special thanks to our sponsors and volunteers this week. Without them, the show could not happen.
Thanks to Raising Cane's 56, Home on the Range, Prince Donuts and Go Boba, Cotton Paddle, and of course, Mr. Gudo for keeping us well fed this weekend.
Thanks to Between the Lines Driving Academy for your support in the club all year long. And thank you to Live Oak Church and Miss Pygott for the use of the great sound equipment.
A gigantic thanks to Mr. and Mrs. Caraway, and again Mr. Gudo, for working this weekend to make sure everything sounded perfectly and go off without a hitch.
We're so blessed to have such a wonderful sponsors. Miss Donzi, Mr. Richard, and again, Mr. Gudo, and Mr. Williams.
We couldn't do this without your love, patience, and support. Finally, to all the JADD alumni that returned this year to give us help on everything, from choreography to singing, especially Mr. Sean Durham, Miss Amanda Spence, and of course, Miss Grace Stevens. Y'all are the absolute best.
So many great organizations, businesses, and friends that look out for us each year after year.
Let's leave here together, standing strong against destructive decisions.
Never meant to cause you any sorrow. I never meant to cause you any pain. I only wanted to one time